Welcome to Living Life. Today we come to the final words of David, set forth for us as an oracle of David in the first 7 verses of 2 Samuel chapter 23.
Second Samuel chapter 23, verses 1 to 12. These are the last words of David, the inspired utterance of David, son of Jesse, the utterance of the man exalted by the Most High, the man anointed by the God of Jacob, the hero of Israel's songs. The Spirit of the Lord spoke through me. His word was on my tongue. The God of Israel spoke. The Rock of Israel said to me, when one rules over people in righteousness, when he rules in the fear of God, he is like the light of morning at sunrise, on a cloudless morning, like the brightness after rain that brings grass from the earth. If my house were not right with God, surely he would not have made with me an everlasting covenant, arranged and secured in every part. Surely he would not bring to fruition my salvation, and grant me my every desire. But evil men are all to be cast aside like thorns, which are not gathered with the hand. Whoever touches thorns uses a tool of iron or the shaft of a spear. They are burned up where they lie. These are the names of David's mighty warriors. Josheb-Basshebeth, the Tahkemonite, was chief of the 3. He raised his spear against 800 men, whom he killed in one encounter. Next to him was Eleazar, son of Dodai, the Ahohite. As one of the 3 mighty warriors, he was with David when they taunted the Philistines gathered at Pas Dammim for battle. Then the Israelites retreated, but Eleazar stood his ground and struck down the Philistines till his hand grew tired and froze to the sword. The Lord brought about a great victory that day. The troops returned to Eleazar, but only to strip the dead. Next to him was Shammah, son of Agi, the Hararite. When the Philistines banded together at a place where there was a field full of lentils, Israel's troops fled from them. But Shammah took his stand in the middle of the field. He defended it and struck the Philistines down, and the Lord brought about a great victory.
This is part of the so-called appendices to the book of 2 Samuel, which comprise chapters 21 through 24. The material in these chapters is of a varied nature, and as a whole, it contains miscellaneous materials, some in prose, some in verse, and it's relevant to the reign of David, but they haven't been integrated into the earlier narrative. In fact, they disrupt the sequence of events and are kind of a random addition to the Davidic history. In any case, we come today to these last words of David. The introductory formula in verse 1 is virtually the same as that of Balaam's oracles in the book of Numbers. In Hebrew, the word oracle or utterance is usually associated with prophetic utterances. And here the oracle is of the man whom God exalted, the anointed of the God of Jacob, the favorite of the strong one of Israel. This last phrase is an interesting one, and it can be translated as the protector of Israel, or almost the darling or favorite of Yahweh. The King James Version and the RSV translate the phrase very evocatively as the sweet psalmist of Israel. David came to be known as a skilled composer of psalms and as a man inspired by the prophetic spirit. A very interesting point here is that the warrior David was also a musician. Not only is the Spirit of the Lord speaking through David, we see that clearly in the Psalms, but the God of Israel has spoken to David and said that the one who rules over people justly, ruling in the fear of God, is like the light of morning, like the sun rising on a cloudless morning, gleaming from the rain on the grassy land. While David certainly had his moral failings, and we wouldn't be too far off to call him a sexual predator, here we are reminded of the key to good moral leadership and the key to David's reign, to rule over people justly, ruling in the fear of God. How do we view leadership? political figures, statesmanship, I want to suggest to you that we view it through the lens of justice. Our leaders following the just ways of God. That certainly includes, if you take your cue from the prophetic literature, the idea of caring for widows and orphans, the oppressed, and those excluded from the corridors of power and wealth. Justice should not be thought of in terms of retribution, like the movies make it seem. I'm out for justice, or I will have my justice. Justice reflects the right ordering of things according to God's heart and being. And this includes laws and practices and policies and people that reflect the idea that every person is created in the image of God, that God created and rules the heavens and the earth, and that mercy and jubilee should reflect how we live life on earth. David refers to the everlasting covenant that God has made with him in verse 5. This is also a reference to God's covenant with the people of Israel, one that stretches way back to Abraham in Genesis 12. Here we see the narrative of God providing for his people through his covenant, ordered in all things and secure. David, of course, leans into this promise and says, "Will God not cause to prosper all my help and desire?" This does not mean God is with David without condition. This is not a blank check to individual rulers who must continue to exemplify God's mercy and concern for the oppressed, as we will see in the subsequent book of 1 Kings. In verses 6 to 7, we see the negative counterpart to the righteous king and his rule. And this may allude to the unrighteous kings of northern Israel who perished. However, it's also possible that the godless or evil men were the enemies of the Davidic dynasty, or simply godless men in general. Their fate is destruction, and they are like thorns, fit only for the fire. This oracle is an ideal for all human beings, both great and small. Those who do justice and act in the fear of God will be blessed, and they will be a blessing to others, while those who love chaos and destruction will receive their heart's desire. What are your political leanings? Whether you are a liberal or a conservative or somewhere in between, do you look for justice in your leader? At the end of a long and challenging career, one that had stunning successes, unbelievable heroism, but also dark sin and failure, David, the man after God's own heart, can say, "Is not my house like this with God, like the light of morning, like the sun rising, like the gleaming rain on grassy land?" Is this the picture you get from how you view your political leaders? Surely we can try, at least, to hold our leaders to a strong moral standard. The other alternative our text holds out for us is not pretty. Consumed with fire on the spot, thorny, evil people are thrown away. What will the legacy be from who we choose to support and who we work for politically in our day? A house gleaming from the rain on grassy land, or thorns consumed by fire? May God give us the wisdom to know the difference. And may God bring all of us leaders who rule justice. Amen.